All right, my name is Rory McCullough, and this is my athlete case study. The client I was given for my athlete case study, her name is Becky Vaughn, and as you can see, this screen is just showing some of her details and her age, occupation, and anthropometric measures. Anyways, my client Becky lives in San Marcos with two other people and they get along for the most part. They also help take care of an elderly man on the weekends from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Becky coaches tennis from Monday to Wednesday for 3 hours a day each training day. So for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, she trains kids in tennis 3 hours a day. And, that's pretty active as well. So, yeah. And also, she maintains a pretty healthy lifestyle, obviously, since her BMI classification is in the healthy range. And now, just some of her details continued on, but this is more so of past instances of health or even familial medical history, but she does not have any history of family problems in terms of health or anything like that. And she does not have any individual instances of health either. So in terms of that, overall, she's looking pretty good. However, she does have a couple of allergies, and those allergies are in terms of she's allergic to pitted fruits, and she's lactose intolerant, which I think that's okay. And obviously her goals are just to stay fit and gain muscle. And also within that of the supplementation, most people do have to supplement regardless of their diet because it is very, very hard to get proper nutrients in all of our foods nowadays because things are so processed and sometimes they're just not high quality food. So supplementation sometimes is needed. Okay, so athlete summary. So Becky used to be a former collegiate athlete. She works out about 5 days a week, which is very active. I do that myself, so to be fair for her, good for her. I personally, I take it easy for the first couple of days, and then I ramp up my exercises. But Becky, she keeps her workouts pretty consistent, or in the same term, kind of in the same level of intensity. It changes up a little bit, but in terms of 5 days a week and what she does, I would say she's pretty active as well. So fair play to her for doing that. So two of her workout days are on Saturday and Sunday on top of the home care, and the other days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and she 3 times a week she trains for an hour by herself, running like endurance running, and then doing some plyometric exercises that she learned from her collegiate coach as well. Because she wants to stay at that level, she wants to stay at the collegiate level and stay at a competitive nature. So I completely understand that. And then also 2 days of the week she's training with one of her friends, her ex-teammates, and they play like a mock tennis match. And 2 hours of playing a tennis match, that can be very tiring, and that's definitely takes a lot of your energy out of you as well, especially if you're going to be coaching 3 kids on top of that. But I think she plays on the weekends anyway, so she plays the matches on the weekends on top of her home care, which is more beneficial because I would say that's a bit more tiring than her own individual workouts that she does by herself. All right, so, but however, even though she's played tennis at a high level, she now plays recreationally. So she's having a hard time trying to find that motivation, speaking, and to keep on going. Now, in terms of any injuries, she does not have any current injuries at the moment. She did have a broken collarbone back in college, or before that. But in college, she was suffering from peroneal tendonitis, which is very bothersome at times, especially when you're trying to run or explode off that ankle and make those lateral movements, or even just exercise in general. If you have any sort of pain, sometimes the muscles don't want to activate as properly as they should, and then it causes a kind of a kinetic chain effect, altering the biomechanics of that individual. Okay, so the current goal for her training program is kind of a struggle in the sense to where, like I said, this is the first time she is not training on a team. This is the first time in her life where she's training by herself and trying to stay in shape. She played in high school for 4 years, played college for 4 years, and it's the first time to where she has to rely on herself to kind of keep off that stubborn weight at times. So I completely understand the struggle that she faces. However, these things happen, and I think if she can use her coaching or use her love for playing and intense workouts and um, demonstrating that to the kids, then I think really she would have a wonderful time trying to stay in shape just by leading by example and teaching these kids how to play the sport of tennis by example. So I think that she could put her focus into that if she really really wanted to. So she doesn't want to gain weight in the term of fat, but she wouldn't mind if she were to gain weight in terms of like lean muscle. And I think that's an okay thing because lean muscle is always beneficial, and who doesn't want to look a bit more toned at the same time looking a bit more fit? Sorry, office drive. Okay. Right, so we're on to nutrition recommendations. The next couple of slides, what we're going to look at is the caloric recommendation, and then the breakdown of that within the macros, and then the micros. So yeah. All right, so the caloric recommendations that I came to, so I chose this this current caloric range based off Becky's lifestyle, height, weight, and current goals. The reason I chose this range of calories consumed is because she lives a very active lifestyle, so I had to incorporate the 1.73 activity factor within the total kcal, or else she would not be able to optimally perform. Now, it should be noted she could probably increase it about 200 to 400 calories if she wanted to be like optimally fueled. Like say for instance, if she had a big game or an event coming up, if she still kind of did that, then I could see that to where she could maybe fuel her body a bit more if she had also a tiring week at the same time, because even if she were to have more calories, if she were to do that, there could be a too much of a gastric effect, like the postprandial effect, should I say. It might be too heavy if she's consuming too many calories. So she should understand when to do it, when not to do it if she is going to increase, because she also doesn't want to gain that weight, and that can be problematic as well. All right, so even though she gained the calories if she wanted to, I would say that if she were to increase the calories, I would maybe incorporate some weights, because then I can get more protein in her diet and build that lean muscle, because then she's stressing her muscles out in another way, and then her body's not becoming efficient and only moving in certain ways to where it's only burning, in a sense, the least amount of calories, because your body wants to optimally perform by saving the nutrients within it. So if that's the case, it's going to also use the muscles that it knows best how to use. Okay, and actually, funny enough, there was a study shown in Russia that evaluated professional Russian athletes and looked at their height, because they figured that taller athletes and slender bodies would perform optimally, but actually the athletes that were closest to their BMI, like the good range of within that, performed optimally versus people that were taller or slender or anything of the case. So it's all about balance and being able to know what's right for your body. All right, so first thing in that breakdown of the caloric distribution is carbohydrates. So I recommended 5 to 8 grams per kilogram of body weight for carbohydrates based off my expertise and what I've learned in my master's program. So her training varies on certain days, so it's not every day will be the same in terms of macro consumption, especially carbohydrates. If she's performing one of her practices matches, now granted, I would say have more calories have more carbs that day, especially like even after the fact or a little bit before. So that's those days I would be a bit more carb heavy, because I need to perform against that other teammate. So that's when I would maybe do that. Now, And so if she could enhance her nutrition strategies that maintain like a high carbohydrate availability, then I think that's ideal for those days. And so besides that, I would say that on those days, just kind of have a plan to have high carbohydrate amounts, and then on the other days, maybe have more of higher fat content, eliciting your body to use fat more of a fuel source than carbohydrates, because sometimes it's good to get your body to be able to use both, because when you're exercising for a long time, you can save those glycogen stores that are super important when it comes into an intense bout of exercise. So for instance, the game of tennis could be slow in pace or slow in intensity for a while, but then for 5 minutes she's at it. There's a rally going on for a long time, but she needs to be able to tap into those glycogen stores for a bit and sustain that for a while. But if she favors carbohydrates all the time, like every single workout mainly, besides tapping into proper fat stores like lipolysis and processes like that, then she's going to have a difficult time when she gets into times of high stress in terms of high intensity of exercises. And it's funny enough to where she changes her workouts up enough to where in terms of intensity, and I think that's beneficial because carbohydrates and fat play a role. Well, especially carbohydrates play a role in insulin sensitivity, but the combination of intense to light or moderate intensities at times makes the body guess, and it helps within insulin sensitivity. So, that's beneficial for her because she doesn't want to gain that weight either when she's working out. So maybe she could eat more. And with her Mediterranean diet on top of a mixed workout schedule, then, she could have some benefit. All right, protein. So for protein, I recommended about 1 to 1.2 grams of kilograms per body weight. I provided this amount of protein for her because her workouts aren't long enough in the endurance sense. And that's why I was saying how some days could be higher in carbs and some days wouldn't, because not every day is like that. Now, if she was running like a super endurance marathon, then sure, yeah, absolutely. Like if she did that, then no doubt. But not every day is the match, so that's why I wouldn't do that. So when it comes to protein, that's why I wouldn't do that. But at the same time, she also doesn't incorporate a lot of weights into her workout. And when you don't do that, you don't need as much protein because weights specifically break the muscle down and protein builds them back up. So that is why I've gone with a 1.2, 1 and 1 range and not anything higher, because she has not incorporated that into her workouts. Now, if she does, like I said, we can go back and incorporate the 200 to 400 calories into her diet by adding that protein a little bit to get that lean muscle mass. Okay, so next, and also females don't usually have they do have a optimal uptake of protein, usually for the most part. All right, so last macro, fat. The daily percentage of fat intake came out to be around 35 to 15% after the calculations we performed for our clients. And mine falls in line with most health professionals in terms of recommendation. And in fact, a study that evaluated professional tennis players found that they were consuming around 30% of fat in their diet, which is beneficial because if pro athletes can do that, then we should mimic kind of our body, our tendencies and habits off of them, because they're the ones that perform optimally best, because they are the best in the sport. So why would we not listen to how they do things? So at the end of the day, I think if Becky can maintain a well-rounded diet like the Mediterranean diet that she favors, then she won't have a problem gaining weight, especially if it has been shown that combination of light intensity exercise improves insulin sensitivity. So like I said earlier on, the combination of that, when carbohydrates and fat play a role, if she has bad insulin sensitivity, she's never going to burn the carbohydrates, or she's never going to tap into the stores in her body, and she's always going to burn the high amounts of glucose in her bloodstream and things like that. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, she doesn't have that problem because of the diet that she's on and the types of workouts that she enjoys. However, so at the end of the day, to wrap up, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates allow the body to perform, protein helps recovery, and fats help mediate the rest of what the body needs at times, like hormonal process and things like that, and shuttles. So yeah. All right, so next slide is macronutrients and supplementation. So as it showed earlier on that she is supplemented with calcium, iron, and vitamin D. Now, funny enough, that most women, most female athletes are low in calcium, iron, and vitamin D. Like I was saying, it's also especially that when you do exercise, you're using those nutrients, you're utilizing your body in terms of stress, and you need to replenish that. But in terms of the food that's given to us, especially in a processed way, those levels may not be optimal. So people do have to supplement at times. And this is what you see with this study here that showed that most women were low in these. So, and these were swimmers as well. So it's across the board that she needs to do that, and it's a good thing that she already is. So well done, Becky. Okay, so next thing is water, fiber, and electrolytes. So for water, it's also known that you should drink about half your body weight in ounces, meaning if I'm 200 pounds, I should drink about 1,000 ounces of water a day. And no, not 1,000, apologies, 100 ounces of water a day. And I think I hit that very easily. Some days if I work out a lot, because obviously if you work out, you have to replenish that, which we'll get to in the next slide. But so for general hydration, you're looking around 3 liters of water a day. So I don't think that's too much to ask, especially if you want to be able to optimally perform, because dehydration is not a good thing to experience. So fiber. So the intake of dietary fiber is very, very important. There's two types: insoluble and soluble fiber that you get from plant fibers, either vegetables or fruit. And they're very important in terms of the cell signaling process in our gut biome. And our gut biome actually communicates with our brain. And so in terms of high stress, like when we don't have that cell signaling process that goes on that really when you're working out, you're not going to be able to release these hormones and optimally perform, like physically and cognitively, even in those athletic instances. And so that's why you see when people are very fit and very lean and they can perform, their bodies are probably like their gut biome is probably intact, and they're eating a lot of fiber, whole foods. And Becky eats a Mediterranean diet, so I think that she shouldn't struggle with that as long as she keeps on making sure that she incorporates these types of foods in her diet, i.e. broccoli, apples, whatever the case may be in terms of plants, but just enough. All right, and so with the fiber, plant fiber is actually known to decrease coronary disease by about 20 to 40%, which is pretty cool, just by the food that you eat. So we should stay away from processed foods and more so of whole foods. And also, endurance athletes may not consume enough carbohydrates in order to keep the weight off, especially females. And it's problematic, as we saw in the other study that evaluated better performance with a balanced BMI. Not to mention, if we limit carbohydrates and fiber intake, we are hurting our bodies overall in general health that can lead to cardiovascular disease. So the reason why I bring that up is if these female athletes are, even Becky, she's scared to gain weight. And so these female athletes, if they're scared to gain weight, they may not eat optimally enough to, especially when carbs, to get these fibers that can help our body in general be healthy, but at the same time combat the effects of working out as well, because the workout is a stressor and you have to repair from that. And the last thing about this slide is electrolytes. These are very important whether you consume Gatorade or Powerade, Body Armor, anything of the sort. But any sports drink containing small amounts of carbohydrate and sodium and potassium is very, very important, because in our bodies we have the sodium potassium ion gated channels that allow the voltage to continually go through our bodies, and we need that because we're frequency based, to allow our muscles to contract properly as well. So not only do I need the potassium and sodium to allow these ions to come through, I need enough ATP for that process to happen. I get that from carbohydrates, and I need enough carbohydrates for my muscles to work. So it's an entirety of things. And so when I'm working out, it's beneficial to have a drink with just enough carbohydrates and just enough electrolytes that can help me perform at the level that I need. Okay, and that brings us to hydration. And so if you're looking to hydrate yourself before exercise, you should really do about 5 to 10 milliliters of kg of fluid before you exercise, about 2 to 4 hours. And most athletes, again, besides being underweight at times, might be deficient when it comes to being hydrated. They might not drink enough or not properly. So, it's problematic. That's why even though I could give her the 200 to 400 calories, I don't really need to as of now, because if I were to train her, I would just monitor and see how she's doing and see how she's feeling, because at the same time, when we go back to the nutrition slide, it was, everything was kind of combined with it, not just the physical nature of working out. The mental part of it is there as well. So during exercise, you kind of just want to get, like I said on the other slide, a drink that has a little bit of carbs, a little bit of salt, some potassium, things like that, just so it allows your body to optimally perform before fatigue sets in, and then you can't really do what you want to do at an intense level. And then after exercise, so remember how we said earlier, we need about 3 liters of fluid just for general hydration. Well, if I burn about 2 kilograms of body weight after a workout, and that's probably just obviously fluid, I need to drink 3 more liters. So that means I'm drinking around 6 liters of water a day if I do that in a tough day. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot of liquid, and that's a lot of food that I got to get into me as well. So it should be it's a process that builds people up to that, right? Okay, so sample fuel and refuel menu. So Becky is not a picky eater at all. Like I said, the only thing that she has a problem with are the pitted fruits, and she's lactose intolerant. But besides that, she eats a Mediterranean diet, and Mediterranean diets are, in my opinion, very, very yummy and beneficial when it comes to overall health, as I'll tell you at the end. Anyways, though, she, like I said, in the range, she eats around 1900 to 2200 calories, and so this put her on a bit on the higher end. And so on this one, you can see how she has more of her calories earlier in the day. I mean, in the later part of the day, because she worked out in the morning after taking care a little bit of the elderly patient on the weekend. So this would be like, say for instance, on a Saturday, she wakes up, she eats her breakfast, goes to take care of the elderly man, and then for a couple of hours, and then she goes and does her workout, and then she has a lunch, and then she's able to have snacks throughout the day, because now she's refueling her body. And then, as you can see, I actually had a higher fat meal, not immediately after the workout, but a little after the workout, because I wanted to kind of put more. She needed a high fat content as well, but also falafel and hummus is also a bit high in carbs, but it's not high in the carbs in the sense of like flour, bread, and things like that. It's from chickpeas. So, and they're very healthy for you as well. So even though they're kind of high in carbs and fat in the same meal, I think there's a decent amount of fiber in that, especially coming from the chickpeas. and the carrots. So she's definitely hitting that fiber mark, which is a very, very beneficial thing to do. And then you come to dinner, all around beneficial meal, large amount of protein, decent amount of carbs and fat, and how it should be, especially that she is a bit more fat centered in the earlier bit of the day. I decided to focus a bit more on protein and carbs on that one. And who doesn't love a little bit of a chocolate, right? I love dessert. And in fact, I was hoping I could give her a chocolate muffin, but it would have come out to be a bit more. But so I decided just with a couple of chocolate pieces. But so I think just for a little snack before bed or whatever, just to satisfy that craving, why not have a little bit? So that's why I gave her that, and it came out to be within her range. Oh, right. So then, um, also with the Mediterranean diet has been associated with decreased cardiovascular disease, reduced type 2 diabetes, improvements in lipid profile and blood pressure, and reduced levels of systemic inflammation, changes that occur even in the absence of significant weight loss. So the reason why I bring that up is because not only does her workouts also improve insulin sensitivity in terms of the combination of light and intense workouts, she improves her body in that sense, and by eating a Mediterranean diet in terms of nutrients, she's getting loads of benefits there as well. So, even though Becky doesn't want to gain weight, I think she'd be okay with gaining a little bit of weight because she's eating good quality food and doing good workouts to where she could probably fluctuate in between 5 to 10 pounds and be okay with it. And that will lead me into my questions. So, what time of day do you like to exercise? Sometimes that's a problem for people because people like a schedule, like a plan, like routine. And especially depending on what kind of workout you did the day before, you could be very sore and you might need more rest, and whatever the case may be. Would you like to add more weights? And I would advise this because adding more weights, not in the sense of bulking up or anything like that, but it stresses your body in a different way. And then you can also strengthen those muscles that are overused and maybe damaged. And also stretching is very, very important as well. And so, do you think it's okay to gain some weight since you're not playing competitively anymore? So you already find it kind of difficult, or Becky already kind of finds it difficult in the sense of finding motivation to work out, and that might cause like some sadness or depression in a small way. But if she's always worried about keeping her weight off, or she's not playing at that level anymore, that might be causing her a little bit of stress that she just doesn't need. So, to be quite honest with you, maybe it might be all right, just because it would give her the peace of mind of that she's okay, but she still wants to play at an intense level. So, how is your perineal tendonitis when you run? I have to ask that just because if you're going to be doing the same thing every day, all day, and not changing it up, I think that you need to look into incorporating different exercises so you stay away from exacerbating that problem, that because you're doing the very similar workouts that you did in tennis. And I would also ask, why don't you consider work part of your active lifestyle, especially coaching? I would just ask that because, I'm a coach as well. And some days my coaching is very, very active. And even though I do want to work out after or beforehand, I know that I have to listen to my body. And so maybe I just stretch before or stretch after the case because I still want to be able to be intentional with my workouts, but I might have to alter it in that sense. So I think coaching is definitely a part of the active lifestyle because, I like to lead by example and demonstrate. And then sometimes, it's beneficial for my boys to play against me because I'm better than them. And when they play against better people, they can see what they do and what they are supposed to do in that time. So this is my athlete case study, and thank you.